first pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlyn Clark, University of Iowa.
He's playing at a whole different level right now, and America is watching.
Hi, Caitlyn.
Hey, what's up, Caitlyn?
Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark.
Caitlyn Clark.
She's growing Iowa's economy.
Tim McGraw comes out on stage in Des Moines wearing a Caitlyn Clark jersey. I mean, it's bananas right now.
We're on the bus and we're all just kind of like, oh my gosh.
You're walking out into a sea, like quite literally a sea of gold.
And to see all those people, oh my gosh.
Caitlyn Clark is the biggest thing the WNBA has ever seen, and that's exactly where the tension starts. The league isn't under pressure because of jealousy, refs, or bad promo choices. The real issue is simple. The WNBA was never built to handle one player exploding this fast on this scale. Caitlyn didn't damage the league. She revealed its ceiling. Once that clicks, it's impossible to ignore. From the moment she stepped into the WNBA, this wasn't a slow intro or a wait-and-see situation. She showed up as a full-blown national event.
Wow! You bet! From beyond the logo! And a little point afterwards. She knows how to spark the crowd.
There was no gradual rise, no easing into the spotlight. The attention didn't trickle in over time. It slammed the system all at once. TV networks reshuffled schedules immediately. Tickets vanished overnight. Ratings jumped every time she touched the floor. Suddenly, nearly every conversation about the league circled back to one name. That speed is what most people completely miss. Pro sports leagues are designed for steady growth, not sudden overload. They expect hype to build step by step. They expect stars to rise together, not alone. They expect time to adjust as interest expands. Caitlyn Clark shattered that rhythm. She packed years of momentum into a few months, and even strong systems feel pressure when that happens. Every league runs on unspoken assumptions. They assume star power spreads out naturally. They assume media coverage evens itself out. They assume fans connect to teams and stories, not just one person. The WNBA was built on those same expectations, and Caitlyn's rise forced all of them into the open at once.
How monumental is the Caitlyn Clark effect? Clark will make her regular season WNBA debut on Tuesday when the Indiana Fever take on the Connecticut Sun, and as expected, the game is already sold out. Ticket prices have skyrocketed. Courtside seats for this game are reselling for over $2,000 each. As for the rest of the league, the Las Vegas Aces and Washington Mystics have already moved to bigger venues to accommodate for the demand when Caitlyn Clark comes to town. The Indiana Fever have also become the most followed WNBA team on Instagram. The Caitlyn Clark effect is real.
Caitlyn Clark didn't come in trying to flip the league upside down, but her arrival forced everything into the spotlight at the same time. She didn't grow at the same pace as the WNBA. She moved faster than the structure around her. That gap matters more than any heated debate floating around online. When one player becomes the main engine pulling attention, every surrounding detail starts getting amplified. Small moments stopped feeling small. A routine call suddenly felt loaded. A quiet game turned into a talking point. League decisions that once stayed behind the scenes were now judged in public, all through the same narrow focus. That shift didn't come from bad intentions. It came from attention piling up in one place. Things that normally wouldn't spark discussion started drawing reactions. Schedule changes became talking points. TV coverage choices were picked apart. Ref calls, something every league struggles with, began to feel like statements instead of simple judgment calls. Even the league's internal energy changed, not because players acted differently, but because the environment around them got heavier. The uncomfortable truth is this isn't really about Caitlyn Clark as an individual. It's about what happens when a system designed for slow, measured growth is forced to handle massive attention without warning. Everyone involved had to move fast, adjust on the fly, and deal with pressure that showed up all at once. League executives suddenly found themselves dealing with pressure they had never trained for. Established players had to move through a media environment that now centered on a different focal point. Fans poured excitement, stress, and expectations into situations that were far more layered than they appeared. Everyone was reacting on instinct because no tested roadmap existed for a moment like this. That's why the stretch felt unstable at times. Not aggressive, not personal, just overloaded. A familiar claim always resurfaces in these conversations. People argue the league should have been prepared. Those years of growth talk and long-term planning should have made this moment predictable. But preparation doesn't work in clean steps. You don't magically become ready for global-level attention just because success finally arrives. Structures take time to catch up. Culture always trails visibility. That delay isn't unique, and basketball history shows it clearly. In the late 70s, the NBA was barely holding attention. Crowds were inconsistent. TV exposure was unreliable. The talent was there, but the sense of urgency wasn't. Then Magic Johnson and Larry Bird entered the league almost together. Their rivalry didn't just help their teams, it forced the NBA to rethink how it presented itself to the public. Media priorities shifted fast. Scheduling became more intentional. Marketing sharpened its focus. The league wasn't fully built for how quickly that storyline would grab the country, but it adapted because standing still wasn't an option. The structure absorbed the pressure and came out changed. Not long after, that same pattern returned. Only this time, the attention narrowed even further. One player became the center of everything. Michael Jordan entered the league as must-watch energy.
The same hunger. Jordan, yes.
Michael Jordan always trying to improve his shot position, the ability to put it on the floor.
His skill was undeniable, but the league around him wasn't built for worldwide obsession. The NBA didn't instantly understand how to package him or where his ceiling really was. His early teams weren't steamrolling the competition. People questioned whether his style could actually win titles. Still, attention stuck to him no matter what. Jordan didn't damage the NBA. He revealed the gaps between talent and infrastructure. It took time for the league to grow into the size of his pull. Rules shifted, media strategies evolved, the game itself adjusted. Global doors opened later. The NBA didn't become a worldwide brand because it predicted everything correctly. It became that way because it adapted while being pushed by rare players. That's the real takeaway from those eras. It's not about ranking legends. It's about when they arrived. Magic and Bird showed up when the NBA was shaky but open to change. Jordan came in when the league was stable, yet still mostly domestic. In every case, attention moved faster than expected, and the league had to adjust while already in motion. That's the same position the WNBA is standing in now, but with an added complication. The media landscape is completely different. When Magic and Bird played, attention moved on a schedule. Games aired at set times. Stories arrived through newspapers and highlight shows. When Jordan rose, the league was just beginning to figure out global television and brand storytelling. There was space to build context and time to adapt. Today, attention doesn't wait. Social platforms push clips instantly. Narratives form before games even finish. One moment can dominate the conversation before details catch up. That speed doesn't just magnify stars. It forces leagues to make decisions faster than ever, often before the dust settles. The WNBA isn't only adjusting to Caitlyn Clark's rise. It's adjusting to a media machine that tracks her every move in real time. Nothing lands quietly anymore. Every play turns into content. Every reaction gets clipped, reposted, and debated. Any perceived mistake doesn't fade, it loops. That's why this moment feels urgent in a way past eras never did. The league isn't just responding to growth, it's responding to instant visibility. There's no buffer anymore, no grace period to sort things out privately. That kind of exposure demands sharper coordination, clearer messaging, and more intentional planning than sports leagues used to need. That doesn't make the situation unmanageable. It makes it modern. Pressure only shows up where expansion is happening. Weak spots don't appear until they're tested. Caitlyn Clark didn't introduce chaos. She highlighted areas that now need to evolve. Media systems will adjust. Scheduling will get smarter. The way stars are supported and presented will widen over time. These shifts almost never happen ahead of the moment. They happen after the moment arrives. And response always takes time. If the league adapts, this stretch becomes a pivot point, a phase where women's basketball moves from steady momentum into lasting relevance. a phase where coverage deepens, structures modernize, and multiple stars can thrive without everything collapsing into one storyline. In that version of the future, Caitlyn Clark is the spark, not the strain.
Carter and Clark. I mean, that's clearly a foul, which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? I think that's going to be a flagrant one, and
I'm talking about in college. Who plays the style that how?
What is the
plays?
style? Just threes?
Wow. It's not just threes.
What is her style?
Second page. Next question. So you get the #1 pick this year. You would take Paige over Caitlyn? Absolutely.
Does Caitlyn Clark need a championship to be considered one of the greats in women's college basketball history?
Yeah.
If adaptation stalls, friction sticks around. The same arguments keep cycling. The same controversies get recycled. Attention gets burned on conflict instead of progress, and fatigue creeps in. Not because fans lose interest, but because momentum never turns into stability. That's the real crossroads. And it stretches beyond any single player. This isn't just about how Caitlyn Clark is discussed or handled. It's about whether the league can expand past its old limits, whether it can evolve at the same speed as the audience watching it. That audience is changing fast, culturally and digitally. Caitlyn Clark didn't create this pressure. She exposed it. What the WNBA does next will shape how the league looks for the next 10 years. This isn't about picking sides or assigning fault. It's about understanding that a larger spotlight demands stronger systems. The real question isn't whether Caitlyn Clark is too big for the league. That framing misses everything. The real issue is whether the league can grow fast enough to meet the moment she represents.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it. Caitlyn Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA.
Because moments like this either become foundations or slip away as missed chances. What happens next will depend less on any single headline and more on how the league handles scale. Growth isn't just about adding fans, it's about building systems that can support attention without cracking. That includes how games are presented, how narratives are shaped, and how stars beyond one name are elevated without forcing comparisons. Leagues that survive moments like this don't try to shrink the spotlight. They widen the stage. That means creating space for multiple storylines to live at the same time. Rivalries, team identities, regional momentum. When attention only flows in one direction, imbalance follows. When it spreads, stability starts to form. The WNBA is already showing signs of that shift. New audiences are tuning in. Younger fans are engaging differently. Conversations are expanding beyond traditional circles. That's not accidental. It's what happens when a league crosses into a new tier of relevance. But relevance brings responsibility. Every decision now carries more weight. Messaging matters more. Consistency matters more. The margin for confusion shrinks when millions are watching instead of thousands. That doesn't mean perfection is required. It means intention can't be optional. This phase isn't about slowing things down. It's about structuring growth so it doesn't burn itself out. Attention is powerful, but unmanaged attention can become noise. The leagues that last are the ones that turn volume into direction. The WNBA is standing at that exact point. The tools are there. The audience is there. The question is whether the structure catches up in time to support what's already arrived. Moments like this don't repeat often. When they do, they define eras. Years from now, people won't just talk about numbers or ratings. They'll talk about whether the league used this window to reset its trajectory or let it pass without fully capitalizing on it. That's why framing matters. This isn't a story about pressure being unfair or attention being disruptive. It's a story about scale changing, faster than habits. Old ways of operating don't break immediately. They strain first. And strain is usually the signal that evolution is required. Caitlyn Clark represents that signal. Not as a problem to solve, but as evidence that the league has reached a new level of visibility. That visibility brings opportunity, but only if it's matched with structure that can hold it. If the league adapts, this era becomes the point where women's basketball stops being treated as an emerging product and starts being treated as a permanent fixture, not a moment, not a trend, a standard. If it doesn't, the opportunity narrows. Attention fades. The cycle resets. Not because interest wasn't real, but because it wasn't organized into something lasting. This is the moment that decides which path comes next. Not through reaction, but through alignment. Not through noise, but through clarity. Growth has already arrived. The next step is making sure it has somewhere solid to land. This stretch will be remembered for what it revealed, not for the noise that surrounded it. The debates, the clips, and the endless commentary will fade. What won't fade is the moment the league was forced to confront how big the spotlight had become. Caitlyn Clark didn't create instability. She exposed a gap between attention and structure. That gap is where pressure lives. It's uncomfortable, but it's also where growth happens. Leagues don't evolve when things are calm. They evolve when momentum demands more than the system was built to handle. This isn't a story about blame or favoritism. It's about scale, about whether an organization can grow fast enough to meet the audience it suddenly earned. Women's basketball has reached that threshold, and what happens next will define how this era is remembered. Moments like this don't come often. When they do, they either reset the foundation or slip away. The difference comes down to awareness and follow-through. Structure has to rise to meet visibility. Otherwise, momentum burns itself out.
That's why understanding the deeper context matters. Not the surface arguments, but the forces shaping the league behind the scenes. Courtside Leaks exists for that exact reason. It cuts through recycled takes and digs into how decisions, pressure, and power actually move the game forward.
This isn't the end of the saga. It's the turning point. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.